Good morning, Cherries fans, and welcome to this latest episode here of Cherry Picking. And of course, I have got my main two people alongside me. We've got Mr. Matthew Harrison. How you doing, mate?
Yeah, not bad, Craig. All good.
Excellent stuff, excellent stuff. And of course, we've got the main man, Manny, below. How you doing, Manny?
Ship shape and Bristol fashion, or should I say ship shape and Crystal Palace, because that's who Bournemouth are playing next. All good, mate. All good. Looking forward to this, as always.
Well, of course, Frank Lampard didn't join 007. Of course, we messed that up a little bit, didn't we? Although, let's just quickly recap on that game because it had a little bit of a friendly feel to it, didn't it? It didn't. It was a game that, of course, we are safe now, 39 points. It would take something ridiculous for us to actually go down from this point. It's not going to happen. Um, what was your expectations going into that game, Matt? Because personally, I thought Chelsea were there for the taking.
Obviously, I predicted us to win it, didn't I? Like we all did last week. But
Yes.
yeah, again, same old, innit? Defensively, wasn't good.
No.
Wasn't good defensively. They were there for the taking. I would agree. But this is one thing we have got to improve on going forward is the defensive side of things. I thought Kante was superb in the midfield for him. He was really their engine. The wide player wore number 31.
Yes.
What's his name?
Madueke.
Madueke, that's it.
I
Madueke.
thought he was
very good.
fabulous down that flank. He caused some real problems. Let's put it this way. I mean, for me, a team of that quality, the run was always going to end at some point. And it was Saturday, wasn't it? Disappointing because, we've had a good run of games, so it was disappointing to lose. And I did put Chelsea down as one of my wins for the bigger clubs this season at home.
Yeah.
So, we have had a good record against them. But, fair play. The better side won on the day, really. There's nothing really to argue about, is there?
No.
I mean, there's a penalty decision, obviously a call for penalty, but I don't think it was a penalty, looking back at it. So, yeah, we still need that or miss that elusive penalty decision. But the one that we had the other day wasn't a penalty for me. I don't know about you, but it wasn't for me.
Well, it'd be nice if we got a penalty, wouldn't it? Really, at some point, it would be nice.
I'm sure Don would like it as well. Just help add to his goal tally.
Yeah, most definitely. And Manny, you probably saw the game. Well, you did see the game. What did you make of, firstly, Bournemouth? Do you feel that we were a little bit leggy because of the recent matches against Southampton and Leeds? Of course, two massive wins against two teams that are in that mix, really.
Craig, this is probably one of those games where I would say Bournemouth were a little bit lackadaisical, and that probably was down to a little bit of, I'd say, slight cockiness, if you will. And the reason why I say this is because just as Arsenal got a little bit cocky in the games against West Ham and Southampton, which we should have won, but ended up drawing after we were 2-0 ahead against West Ham. And despite being ripped apart in the first hour by Southampton to the tune of 3-1, we showed hardly any urgency to be able to get back. And I think what happened was, because the expectation was that Bournemouth would win, I think there might have been a bit of complacency in the team. I didn't see much of the first half, so sadly I missed Vigne's first goal, which was an absolute peach, and Chelsea's one, which put them ahead. And I thought that at 1-1, you still had a chance to get it. So, thankfully I was able to watch the second half, and I was hoping for a bit of a treat. But then it was a case of you lot exerting a great deal of pressure, but defensively, and I think Matt has pretty much hit the nail on the head. That is something you're going to have to work on in the summer. That is, make sure you get some defenders who can really keep the keep that sort of focus, because you can't afford to have a situation where if you get hit on the counter, you end up not being able to deal with it. And I think both of Chelsea's goals in the second half were a result of not being able to withstand the counter attack and deal with it effectively. And of course, they got their goals and they ended up winning. I think someone like Bednarek, who is, of course, set to be relegated with Southampton, if you can get your hands on him, I think he'd be a perfect signing, really. And I don't know if we were talking about this in an earlier edition of Cherry Picking, or it could have been on a call-in show, but there is going to be a fire sale of players from clubs who are going to be relegated, and I would say that Bournemouth actually need just 1 point from their final 3 games to be mathematically safe, because now once you get to that 40-point barrier, you pretty much can't be caught, no matter what the other teams will try and do. So I think the good thing about the Chelsea result is that it reminds you lot that you still got to prove yourself as often as you can. And in the next game, I think you should be able to get the point you need to take it to 40. If you can get the 3 points, that would be wonderful. And of course, it's not going to be easy playing Crystal Palace, managed, of course, by a certain Roy Hodgson. They've started scoring goals very, very frequently, especially now that Patrick Vieira is gone. I think the likes of Eze and Gehi and a few others, Zaha maybe not so much, but you're going to find goals everywhere now these days with regard to Palace. So this is going to be another test of the defence, and I think whoever gets picked by Gary will really have to stand up and be counted.
Yeah, definitely. Well, I think the first thing we need to do is have a look at our Hall of Fame entries. So, congratulations to Artur Boruc, the big pole in the goal, the biggest poll winner to date, 75.7% of the vote. He's an outstanding goalkeeper for us, weren't he, Matt?
Yeah. He was for me. He was the difference between being promoted when we were and when he come in. You know, the form was all right, but we were still. I don't think we were even in the playoff places or anywhere like that when he come in that season. So I mean, he really excelled our promotion bid in 2014, 2015. And a good experienced goalkeeper for the first few years in the Premier. Obviously, he lost his place to Asmir, but sort of by January he won it back again, and he was good experience for the likes of Ramsdale and Travs. So yeah, he rather than just playing every week, he was also, I'm sure, also a very very good experience for the likes of Ramsdale and Travers that were coming through. So and also Polish international for many years. So yeah, a really really good goalkeeper. The only thing with him, I'd probably question his kicking a little bit at times, but in terms of actually being a keeper, all round keeper, he was really really good. I mean, I wouldn't want to be in the defence in front of him and having him shouting at you. So you'd want to make sure.
Yeah.
Definitely don't want to get on the wrong side of Mr. Boruc, do you? But yeah, quality.
Yeah, and fantastic signing, of course, from our friends down the M27. But yeah, absolutely outstanding goalkeeper, and we were so lucky to have had him, really. And of course, he joins the likes of Super Fletch, Super Mac, and of course Harry, and of course the rest of them in the UTC IAD Hall of Fame. And there we are. There's the poll results. To be honest, it was a little bit. It's a bit harsh on Jimmy and Schwangelau, because you are going up against somebody who is a heavyweight in our promotion season.
Yeah, yeah. That's why this week I've decided to, because there was a couple of comments on Twitter about, the comparison. Obviously, Schwangela was fantastic for us in the lower leagues. Arthur was
Yes.
great for us in the higher leagues. So for our candidates for this week, I've kept it's a group of defenders from a
Mhm.
similar era. Should we have a look?
Go for it. Go for it, Matt.
But first, there's Mr. Boric in the Hall of Fame with the others. So it's
There
starting
we
to
are.
fill up now. Starting to
That
fill
is
up.
some team.
Yes, yes, definitely some team there, isn't there?
Yes.
Yeah, not a bad little five-a-side team there.
No, most definitely not. Most definitely not. So, shall we go through the nominees for
Yep.
this week? And do remember to vote on Twitter. So far away.
So first one up this week, Mark Morris, good old-fashioned centre back. One of my first favourite players when I started watching Bournemouth. To be fair, he would always sort of stick his body on the line. To be fair, had a few injuries from his defending over the time. Was captain under Pulis and briefly under Machin, and played 194 times, scoring 8 goals. So first candidate this week is Mark Morris.
Yes. Yep.
Right, big one from the Cherries folklore is left back Paul Morrell,
Hmm.
known as Mozza. Was at Dean Court for over 10 years. Real big fan favourite. Played 343 games, scoring 8 goals. Kenny Dalglish was said to be interested in signing him while he was at Dean Court.
Yep.
And he was also voted into the AFCB greatest ever team, which was a poll that was done around 2005, and there was a big picture of the team done. So it was like I think Mossy might have been the keeper. I think Wade
Yeah.
Elliott was in it. Mozza was in it at left back. So I have got the picture somewhere, but I can't find it. But yeah, so he was very, very, very popular with the Cherries fans back in the 80s to early 90s. Also had a testimonial at the club in 93.
Hmm.
And our final candidate this week
Go for it.
is John Williams.
Oh, Willow.
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 So
Yes.
he was hard centre back in his day. Wasn't
Hmm.
shy in front of goal either. Had quite a good eye for goal at times. Was part of the third division title winning squad of 86, 87. And he's now a BBC Radio Solent pundit. Another player that also had a testimonial at the club in 1998.
Yep, definitely.
Our
And of
candidates.
course, can be heard on Radio Solent, can't he?
Yeah. I just said that he's now a pundit on there.
Yep.
He's been on there for quite some time now.
Hmm.
So yeah, big character on the club, Willow.
Yes. Yep, he certainly was. He certainly was. So, voting will be available on Twitter. So please, please, please do get involved and do keep your eyes peeled on the Facebook link, which will be on there as well, which will direct you to that poll as well. So, of course, Manny did mention that we are playing Crystal Palace this weekend. And shall we have a look at a couple of players that have played for both sides?
Yeah, there's not many this week, but yeah, let's go for it.
Yeah, I was going to say, I'm trying to think of players that have played for both teams. And
I'm sure there's a lot more than what I've got, but to be fair, this week I've been a bit pushed for time. But
yeah,
I've managed to get about 8 or 9 together, so we've got a little comparison.
Go for it.
Right. So first up, Glenn Murray.
Of course. Yes, of course. Glenn Murray was at Crystal Palace. How long was he there for?
Was he there for quite a while?
Yeah, I think he was, wasn't he? Was it
Was he
2
there
seasons?
3 seasons, something like that? Because he's had 2 spells at Brighton, hasn't he?
Yes, yes.
Didn't he have a spell at Brighton either side of Palace? Brighton, Palace, us, Brighton.
We shall find out. We shall find out.
Let's have a look. But yeah, he'll always be remembered for scoring that goal at Chelsea, I think, when we got our first win at Stamford Bridge.
Yeah, yeah, and that was our first win against the big sides, wasn't it? Really, in the Premier League, that was okay. Yes, West Ham, but against one of the big, what you would call six.
Yes, yeah.
Yeah, and then of course we went and beat Man United the following week.
Ah, yes, of course we did. Yep.
Yeah.
He will, forever be remembered for that goal at Chelsea. And then obviously the next week we went and beat United, didn't we? So
Yes.
yeah, good fond memories of Glenn in the season that he was with us.
Yeah.
Mr. Cahill, saw him last week. Seen him this
Yes.
week. Obviously we signed him on a free from Palace. He was out of contract, wasn't he?
He was. Yeah.
But yeah, what a great defender. I mean, if you talk about him, from whatever club he was at, whether he was at Bolton, Chelsea, I mean, the man's won everything in the game at club level. You don't win everything at club level through, just being average, do you?
No.
So I mean, he's formed part of that Chelsea back line for a considerable amount of time with a lot of success. So yeah, shame that he didn't. Shame he didn't come on this season. To be fair, because it would have been nice. I think it would have been nice to have him for this Premier League season, just for a bit of experience. Even if he was just on the bench for a lot of it.
I think he struggled, didn't he, a little bit
Yeah.
after that injury? Was it against Millwall, if I'm right in thinking?
Yeah, I think was it Millwall or Barnsley?
It was one of them, wasn't it? I kept thinking it was Millwall, but I might be
I
wrong.
can't remember, but yeah, I think the injury, would have finished him. To be fair, sadly, but yeah, it's just nice to have a player of his caliber play for Bournemouth. It was a pleasure watching him for the time that we had him.
Yeah, it certainly was. It certainly was, and of course, he also played for Chelsea, played for Bolton Wanderers as well. So he was always up there in the Premier League.
Yes, yeah, and yeah, be interested to see what he does with his retirement.
Yes,
Be
yeah, it will
interested
be.
to see what he does. I don't know if he's doing anything at the minute, whether he's doing coaching badges or whether he's going into punditry or what. But yeah, I'm sure we'll see him back in the game at some capacity at some point.
Yeah, definitely.
Current player,
Yes.
Nathaniel Klein.
Mm.
Now, what did you think about Klein when he was at Bournemouth?
I think he had some good games. I remember there was a couple of games which he had, which were pretty decent. But I feel that, of course, he come on. He joined from Liverpool, wasn't it? And it was. I expected probably a bit more. Expected probably a bit more than what we got. But what was your feelings towards him?
I thought he was decent.
Mm.
And you could see he was a good player. I don't know
Yes.
whether he got enough game time. I don't know really, to be fair.
Mm.
He did play quite a few games, but then there's times when he was sat on the bench. And then I think towards the end of that season, was he even selected? I can't remember.
I
But I don't think he was.
was he?
I don't think he was. I mean, I don't know if I've got a program here to hand from that season to be able to tell you, but I've put them all away now. But yeah, he's I don't think he was used down here as much as he probably wanted to have been. Obviously, when we signed him, I think we signed him in the January on loan, didn't we? And I think we did. We have a couple of injuries. Frano was out, I think. Was Smithy out for a bit?
Yeah. I'm sure it was Smithy, wasn't it, that he come in for at times.
You know, so yeah, nice to see that he's still playing. Because obviously he was at Liverpool for a while, and obviously fell out of favour there, didn't he?
Yeah.
And he seems pretty settled at Palace. He's been at Palace before when he was younger, wasn't he? So yeah, let's just hope he has a terrible game on Saturday if he's
Well,
playing.
exactly. What did you make of Nathaniel Klein, Manny?
Nathaniel Klein.
Yeah.
Well, obviously, I mean, I know he's Oh boy! Once again, the screen's turned black.
No, that's all right. I can edit this bit out. That's why I did pop in the chat. All okay, Manny, because I thought that you was having problems.
Yeah. So, I mean, obviously, I know of Nathan Klein from his Southampton days, and of course, he did spend some time at Liverpool. Certainly, what we'd call a utility defender who can certainly do a job, and he certainly played his role for the clubs he's been at. And yeah, I wouldn't necessarily say that he was one of those defenders who would pull up trees in that sense of the word, but he was an important player for them and for both Palace and Bournemouth, and did everything he had to do.
Yeah, definitely.
And I tell you what, if this current Southampton team had his grit and desire, they wouldn't be in the position where they're in. Let me tell you.
That's a very good point.
Yeah, definitely. Because of course, he was down the south coast for a little while as well.
He certainly was. Let's move on.
Yep, let's go for it.
Ian Cox.
Yes.
Yeah, come from Palace as a midfielder, and we know the story. Converted to a centre back, became captain, and sold on for a good profit.
Mm-hmm.
But yeah, didn't play overly many games for the first team, I don't think, at Palace. But obviously found his way at Bournemouth.
Yeah, and of course he's currently at the club again. So it's good to see him back. Of course, he did. Just having a quick look, he only played 15 times for Palace. And I'm trying to think, who was the Palace manager at that time? Was it?
I've got a funny feeling a certain Mr. Southgate was there.
Yes, he was at the time, wasn't he?
I'm going to go with Steve Coppell.
I was thinking Coppell, but I'm not 100% sure. I
think he's had a few spells at Palace, hasn't he, Coppell, over the years?
Yes, yeah, it's a club that he always seems to be at, isn't it?
Yeah, I think when Coxey was there, and looking at that shirt, that's kind of early 90s. That's got to be sort of 93, 94, probably.
Then yes, it would be Steve Coppell. You're right, Matt.
Yeah, I think it would be, yeah.
Well, he started off under Alan Smith, so in '94, but I believe it was Steve Coppell that sold him to us. Because am I right in thinking? Well, what month did he join in?
I don't think he joined during the summer.
No, I was thinking that. I'm thinking.
Well, hold on a minute.
I'm thinking it might have been. Here's a question for everybody. We will work it out in a moment. But I think it was because Dave Bassett took over in February 1996 from Steve Coppell. So
I think he comes sort of September, October '95.
So that would coincide with Steve Coppell sold him to us. So there we are. That's an interesting fact, and I don't believe that is actually on Wikipedia. I don't
What's that?
believe
Sorry.
about Steve Coppell selling him to us. So yeah, he joined in 1996.
Yeah, 96. So 96. God, I'm trying to cast my mind back. Yes, now I do remember. Yes,
Yeah,
yes, I do remember now. But yeah, I mean, like you say, 15 games for Palace, but coming to Bournemouth and played 173 times and moved on to Burnley, which, like I said just a few weeks ago, ironically made his debut for Burnley against Bournemouth, which,
yes,
which was strange. Sold him on the Tuesday and he was back at Dean Court on the Saturday. Bizarre time. Uh, and I can remember he wore number 32 for Burnley when he
Mhm.
first signed for him. See, I, I just remember such stupid things. But hey, let's move on.
Go on then, go
Might
on.
tell you what colour pants he was wearing that day or something. Right, here we go. Come on then. Who is it?
I'm trying to work that out. Hang on.
He's still in the squad currently. Twilight years of his career now. Where's number
Ooh,
2 for Palace?
Joel Ward.
Joel Ward. Now,
bloody
if you
hell.
see the picture of him there in the Bournemouth kit, that's the famous game against Blythe Spartans.
Mm. Yes, that game.
Yeah,
Um, in fact, I saw a program from that earlier on today, and I was like, that's
enough said about that, the better.
yes, yeah. Enough said about that game, the better.
But yeah,
But of
he
course,
he joined us on loan from Pompey that season.
yes,
That was
yes, he
the
did.
-17 season.
Yeah. So there we are. That's Joel Ward, and of course, he's had a very, very good career at Crystal Palace. And to be honest, I didn't recognise him, from all those years ago. Looks completely different.
Yeah, yeah. I mean, like I say, he must have only been about 18, 19 there, if that. 18.
Yeah,
But yeah, let's move on to the next one.
yeah. Let's go for it.
Jamie Vincent.
Yes.
Um, obviously, sadly, no longer with us.
Mm.
Great, great left back. Good set piece taker. Good passer of a ball long across field, upfield. Fantastic player. Really good
Yeah,
player. When he scored a goal, it was normally something special. Wasn't many, but when he scored one or two, they were normally goals to be remembered. Normally free kicks or something like that. From what I can remember back then. Obviously, we sold him on for a profit as well. I think we sold him for about 345,000. I think we sold him to Huddersfield for.
yeah,
Um, but yeah, great player.
yeah. Definitely, definitely. And of course, played 107 times for us. So the most games he's played in his career, was also at Portsmouth, Derby, Millwall. Finished it, well, Swindon, Walsall, and finished Aldershot in the Football League, wasn't it? Back
Yes,
in 2011.
yeah, yeah. He had a little bit of a journey after Bournemouth, but yeah, yeah, all quality player. Um,
Yeah,
there was kind of a sort of, sort of 97, 98, 99. There was sort of this back four of Young, Howe, Cox, and Vincent.
yeah,
You always knew that would be your back four, unless someone like Rowland come in or there was injuries. But normally that would be towards the end of the 90s. That would be Machin's preferred back four, and Yeah, quality back four they were as well for the league we were in at the time.
Yep. Let's go to the last player.
The last one,
There we are. Yep.
Mr. Jimmy Glass.
Yes, Jimmy Glass.
I
And
was searching everywhere, right, for a picture of Jimmy in something Palace orientated. And just as well his book arrived today, wasn't it? Because that's where that picture comes from.
oh, go on. We know you like a good book, Matt. You've got to tell us a little bit about Jimmy Glass's book.
I ain't read it yet.
Well, no, you haven't read it, but tell us the title. And of course, it does have that picture from Carlisle, hasn't it? Was it Carlisle versus Plymouth on the front there?
That is no. Yes, I think it is Plymouth. Yes, yeah, and was it Scarborough? Scarborough.
Scarborough went down, didn't they?
We're already celebrating, thinking they were safe, and then the goalkeeper pops up and bangs one in. But yeah, looking forward to reading this. Obviously, there's stuff already in here that I'll already know, but with covering the goalkeepers in that last week, it did make me think about Jimmy's book. So yeah, I've purchased it now, so I should give this a good read. Hopefully, catch him at the ground and might get him to sign it.
We've done the players that played for both, but before we go through to the head part, we had a number picked, didn't we?
Yes, we did. Yeah, by Manny, who
Yep,
picked number 16.
16. I tell you what, an interesting choice as well there, Manny. What made you go for 16?
Well, certainly I didn't want to be in a situation where we'd pick a goalkeeping number again. And normally at Bournemouth, the goalkeepers would wear 1 and 13, and any other number assigned. I thought 16 because it would be an interesting selection. I thought we might perhaps have a greater variety. It's a number that's been worn by almost everyone, from defenders to midfielders to attackers. I don't recollect any goalkeeper having worn 16 unless they've played for certain other clubs, certainly not at Bournemouth. So I just thought, why not? Sweet 16, Cherries staying up, Cherries taste even sweeter.
Exactly. He's a man of his words, isn't he?
Yeah.
I love the words you come out with, Manny. It's brilliant.
I tried, mate. I tried.
He's absolutely spot on though with midfielders and defenders and strikers and wingers, because there's a bit of everything in this one.
Yes.
Should we have a look?
Go on. We might as well.
Right, so our number 16s.
16s.
Right. Now there's 3 players on this one.
Go
They're
on.
not
You talk
all
for 'em.
they're not all in order. The first one in the Seaward shirt there, that's Mark Rawlinson. Now he started out in youth at Man United. And he was the first person to be allocated to the number 16 shirt in 1999. The guy in the middle is Anthony Edgar, who we had on loan from West Ham.
Yep.
Who featured in played for both a little while ago. And then we've got Derek Holmes, who was signed as kind of like a backup to Fletch.
Yes.
So Fletch, if he was injured, Derek would come in and do the big man role. Spent a couple of seasons with us, scored some goals, to be fair. Wasn't overly prolific. Come from Ross County. Yeah, sort of 2001, I think he signed for us. And then played his bit during the playoff season of 2002, 2003.
You picked a good one here, Manny, because I tell you what, it's players that, I'm sure that a lot of fans have probably forgotten a bit about.
Yeah, no, this is definitely a good pick. This is
Yeah.
definitely a good pick. But that's the 3 that I couldn't find many pictures of anyway. But let's carry on.
Interesting fact about Mr. Rawlinson. Apparently, he became a police officer after he retired from football.
That is correct.
Mm.
Yeah, he did. He also represented FC United of Manchester, I believe, towards the end of his playing career.
Yeah.
Bringing things full circle. A
Full
Manchester
circle.
United youth player, and then United of Manchester.
Yeah,
How ironic.
how ironic.
Yeah.
But the second player to wear the 16 shirt was Wade Elliott.
Yes, of course. Of Cheltenham Town now.
Yeah, he's now a gaffer himself. It makes
Yeah.
me feel old because it only feels like yesterday that I was watching him run down the wing for us, and now he's a manager. But yeah, fantastic player. And similar to like the Harry Arter story, this guy was picked out of Bashley for
Yep.
the grand sum of £3,000.
Yeah. It was great bit of business.
Oh,
But that's
great!
what we had to do.
Yeah. I mean, that's how that's how the club got by.
Yeah.
As we well know. But yeah, £3,000, and then he became a Premier League player eventually, didn't he, with Burnley? So yeah, great player. What I used to really like about him was that no matter how small he seemed to be, he never seemed to get bullied. He always
Yeah.
managed to be able to keep the ball, beat the men. He's delivered so many balls into the box for Bournemouth, and did pop up with some good goals as well. Some really good goals. So yeah, he's a player that's had several numbers for Bournemouth. 16 just being one of them.
Yeah.
Okay, Josh Gowlin,
Yeah.
centre back.
Mm.
I think he suffered quite a bit with injuries in his time at Bournemouth. I think he spent about 2 to 3 seasons at Bournemouth. Wasn't too long. But he had the squad number 16 for one season or 2 seasons, 1 or 2, 1 season I think it was. But yeah, gotta say, don't remember too much about him, to be fair. Personally, myself. So yeah, we'll move on.
Yeah. It's always an interesting one. The 16 is an interesting number. And let's have a look at the next player. There we are, Marvin Bartley.
Marvin
Go on,
Bartley.
Matt.
Now, for me, he was like our Lerma of that time.
Yes.
Yeah, the ball winner, energetic, good passer of the ball as well. Not too sure what that Rochdale player's doing in the top right hand corner there. He seems to have his little finger in his mouth, but yeah, you could tell that he was one that would end up moving on at some point, which he did follow Eddie to Burnley.
He did.
Unfortunately for us, because it was a big loss at the time. But then we did have other players like Anton Robinson, and Harry Arter hadn't long been signed when he left. So there was always seemed to be someone that filled the void at the time. But yeah, really good player, and is now a manager of his own. Jeff Golding,
Hmm.
and he actually played against Steve Fletcher.
Yes.
I think he was playing for Eastbourne at the time.
Hmm.
And he came up against him. He must have been at Crawley at the time, Fletch. And yeah, he was brought in to be kind of that big sort of man, that big presence up front. But we all know the story of this era.
Yes.
Really materialised for him, and he eventually moved on. Remember, for some reason, the game against Notts County sticks out in my mind. Might have been televised by Sky, away game, because that season it was sort of like us battling with Notts County to go up, as which obviously we finished second that season. I think Notts County won the division, I think.
Yeah.
But yeah, I've got a funny feeling that I think he scored a goal at Notts County, quite an important goal away at Notts County, but I might be wrong. But yeah, was here for a short while. But yeah, he did famously wear the number 16. A striker. See, so many different positions coming up. This is a cracking number.
It is.
Oh, here you go. Royce Wiggins.
I think he did. Royce
Did
Wiggins, of course, he was at the club for years, wasn't he? He played for Charlton, didn't he?
That he
uh,
did. That he did.
Also,
he did.
also was about in our
He did play for
first Premier League
Palace.
season, wasn't he?
He did play for Palace. He played one game for Palace between 2006 and 2009.
Well, we'll let you off that one, Matt.
So
But
yeah, no, he was a bit of a journeyman. Well, I say a journeyman, not really. To be fair, I mean, he went to Norwich, and then
yeah,
ironically come back on loan to Bournemouth. So Norwich purchased him from Palace. He had a loan spell at Bournemouth before. Then Norwich loaned him back to Bournemouth to then for him to sign permanently for Bournemouth.
yes,
And then he went on to play for Charlton, Sheffield Wednesday. He come back to Bournemouth when we were in the Premier League as backup left back.
yeah,
We loaned him out to Birmingham, where he then suffered a career-ending injury, unfortunately, which was a shame. But a very talented player, very talented player. Considering in this era that he's pictured here, he would have been up against the likes of Warren Cummins, who was an established left back at the club, but did have his injuries as well. So it wasn't like he was coming in and had an easy fit straight into the team. He had obviously an established left back ahead of him. But yeah, part of the squad that missed the lost in the playoffs to Huddersfield.
yes, yeah, he was, and of course, like you said, he didn't play a game in his final spell at the club, and it was only his second appearance for Birmingham,
Yes.
which he got that injury, which
Yes.
finished his career.
Yeah, unfortunately. I think he's got into. Has he got into like fitness coaching or nutrition, something like that?
I'm not sure. I'm
I
going to have a
I
quick
think
look.
he has. I think he has. But or sports therapy or some. I was reading a little while ago what he was doing. But yeah, unfortunately, I can't remember off the top of my head. Sounds like you're going to say something, Craig.
I was just having a little Google.
Oh, Google.
I'll edit this bit out.
So
I've
what?
got to do a lot of edits tonight. Actually, I found his LinkedIn.
Oh, Craig, forever the stalker.
Found his LinkedIn. Yes, he's transitioned into sports nutrition.
Ah, I thought that's what it was.
Yeah, and he's actually got his own company called RW Perform.
Ah,
So there we are.
interesting. Interesting. Well, let's have a look at another number 16.
Uh, there's McDonald.
Old McDonald.
Yeah,
His career's finished now.
yeah.
Finished. But I think he's one of these sensible players because he is actually a property investor now. So I think he's a player that's looked after his money and he's now investing in property. But yeah, I remember when he first signed. I remember him playing for Yeovil. I think he had quite a lot of loan spells at Yeovil from Swansea, I think, if I remember rightly. But yeah, Brad has brought him in.
Hmm.
Good, decent midfielder at League One level, Championship
Yeah.
level, weren't bad. Graced the Premier League for us. I think just for the first season. Then I think he was. Did he leave summer 2016? Was it?
Yes, yeah, he was there. I'm trying to think. He was there at the club for the first season in the Premier League, wasn't he? If I'm
Oh
right in
yes,
thinking.
yeah. He was.
And
He
then
was.
he left after that to go to Wigan.
Wigan. Ah.
Yeah. Am I right in thinking that?
Oh no, he went
Yes, you
somewhere
are.
else. Oh, you are right. Are you? I know he did play at Wigan at some point. Where else did he play?
I shall find out.
After Wigan, he moved to Rotherham United
That's
for
right.
3 seasons. Crewe Alexandra for 1 season. Difficult one where he only played 3 games, and I think he. I don't know if he's. I think you mentioned that his career might be over, but it's listed that yeah, he had retired at Crewe Alexandra, but then he ended up signing for the Welsh Premier side Penybont on an 18-month deal. I think that deal could be coming to an end at the end of this season, but yeah, good to see him still up and about.
So he is still playing. That's good.
There we are.
Nah. Well, I liked him. I liked McDonald. Always thought he put a shift in. Always put effort in.
Yeah.
Not many players can say they played against the mighty Real Madrid, can they? So, but yeah, let's move on. So after Mr. McDonald,
Lewis Cook.
now Lewis Cook. Here's one for you. Is he the answer if Bournemouth lose Lerma?
I think he can do the job, can't he? I think he's a very different player to Jefferson.
Exactly. Yeah.
I think Jefferson is tough tackling, no nonsense. Lewis Cook is probably a little bit more skillful.
I'd
Of
say he's more rounded as a player than Lerma. I'd say he's more of a passer of the ball, isn't he?
Yeah.
Rather than an out and out sort of ball winner.
Mhm.
Could he do that role? Would be interesting to see. I think he could do a job for a while in that position.
Yeah.
But yeah, just wonder what you thought on it. But I
You,
love Cook. I think he's a great player.
yeah, I
Really.
completely agree. Completely agree.
Shame
Very
he's,
unlucky.
shame he's had the injuries he's had. Shame that we got relegated when we did. But fair play to him, he stayed with us because there was that time when he was about to sign us. It looked like he might have been getting a few appearances in the England squad. Obviously, he made his debut, come off the bench, didn't he?
Yes.
And earned his senior cap, and that's his only cap to date, unfortunately.
Yeah.
Which maybe if things had worked out differently for the club and for him, maybe he might have gone on and made some more appearances for England.
Yeah.
And
Definitely.
then how many players can say they've lifted a World Cup for England?
Well, only only once in 1966,
And
and
this
of
guy
course,
here,
yes, exactly.
because he was captain at that level,
He
and
was the
for
first one
England,
to touch it.
and he lifted a World Cup for England. So,
Was
hey,
that the under-21 in South Korea, by the way? I think that might have been. That might have been.
or was it under? Yeah, it might have
Under-20s.
been. Yeah, under 20s. Yeah, yeah. So not many people can say they could do that. But I think he played for England, if I remember rightly, pretty much every age range. I think.
That's
Most
right, he did.
he did he? Yeah,
I'm pretty sure he did.
yeah. I'm pretty certain he did. But yeah, let's bring ourselves bang up to date.
Marcus Tavernier.
Marcus Tavernier. Shame that he's had the injuries he's had really this season, because I'm pretty certain we would have seen a fair few more goals from the guy.
Yep.
Um,
What we have seen though is great.
it is good, and let's hope he can have a good summer, get fit, and stay fit
Yep.
next season.
Yep. Most definitely, mate. Most definitely.
I was a bit unsure of him when we signed him.
I remember having this conversation with you guys, and it was a case of he was one of those players, a little bit like Semenyo, that I thought blew hot and cold. Of course, I think Semenyo is going to come good. When we've seen him at times, he looks like he's probably a bit rawer than Marcus Tavernier. He's got a little bit more to do, but I think he'll come good. But Marcus Tavernier, I think has taken to the Premier League like a duck to water, and I think of course, what he's done is fantastic.
Yeah. Yeah, no, I completely agree with you. I just think there's a lot more to come now.
Yep, most definitely. Most definitely. So there we are. That is in the number 16s. And what number are we picking next week?
Well, Manny's picked a number, Sam's picked a number, Mr. Lawrence has picked a number. So you can pick the number this week, Craig.
I'm going to pick number 7.
Number 7.
Ooh, nice.
Number 7. We know who is going to be mentioned on that list as well. That's why I picked it. But number 7s.
Number 7's next week then.
There we are. So that is our number 16s. Do let us know, what you think is going to be coming up in the number 7s in the comments below as well. But let's have a look. Of course, we're going to have a look at the Crystal Palace head-to-head in a second. But before we do that, of course, Palace are safe now. They can't get relegated. Ourselves, let's be fair, it would take something of it's just not going to happen. It's just not going to happen. Do you think that Palace are going to rotate things? Take their foot off the gas for this one? Do you think we're going to rotate things, or do you think it's just going to be all out to try and get as high up the table as possible?
Thing is, that's what it's all about, isn't it? For
Yeah,
clubs like us and Palace, the higher up in the league you are, the more money you get, basically, isn't it?
yeah,
So, why finish 16th if you can finish 14th at the end of the season?
exactly.
It does make a difference in the money. So, um, but then it's the other thing is this is what will determine what good managers can do. Someone
Mhm.
like Hodgson, who's vastly experienced, is like possibly we may have been against Chelsea. Like I think Manny touched on it slightly earlier. Like
Mhm.
lethargic was possibly a word I would have used with some of our play last week.
Yeah.
How do you stop us being on deck chair time? What is there to play for? How do you keep the players
Mhm.
hungry? And that's the key for Gary O'Neill over these next few games, is keeping the players hungry, because we still want to see some wins on the board. I still think we will get a win before the end of the season. I really do. Palace, with Hodgson, Palace will be
Mhm.
difficult. They're not going to sit back, even if he does make a few changes.
Yeah.
They're not going to sit back and think, this is deck chair time. They're at home. They're going to want the win.
Yeah.
We are going to have to be on it. But sometimes this season, like the away games and the ones I've been to, there seems to be less pressure in some respects, I
Mhm.
think, when they're playing away. I think they've played way better this season in a lot of the games than they have done in some of the home games.
Yeah,
So it could be an interesting game.
yeah.
And I'm hoping we see goals.
Well, definitely,
Uh,
definitely, and we will be doing a watch along for it, won't we, as well?
yeah, there will be a watch along this week. Yeah, kicking off at 2:30 on Saturday afternoon.
Yes.
So you and myself will be doing the watch along. Um, I think it's gonna be an interesting game. I'll be very, very surprised if we sit here next week and it was a dire 0-0.
Hmm.
Be very surprised.
Yeah.
Because
It won't be a 0-0, I can tell you that. But keep
no,
going.
no,
Yeah.
definitely, I totally agree. So it'd be an interesting game. Let's just hope we get some points out of it.
What players do you think we need to look out for? Because I think they've got so much quality. The two that stand out for me is Erabishiezi, a player that I wanted us to sign. You know, when we were last in Premier League, he looked really, really good for QPR. And Michael Elise. Those two, I think, they're a little bit like Zamora and Anthony. They're quite good friends as well, I believe.
Mm,
And their link-up play in the centre is very, very good.
yeah, yeah. Not just them though, is it?
No.
That's the thing. When I'm just thinking through Palace's squad now, and I'm thinking, oh god. Um, Obviously, like I tell you, the one player I don't know if I'm right by saying this, but I've never really personally rated
Mm,
is Zaha.
mm.
I think he's overrated. I mean, there's been games in the past when Charlie Daniels has had him in his back pocket.
Yeah.
Do you know what I mean? Now I've said that, he'll have a good game Saturday.
Yeah.
but,
Oh crikey! Yeah.
but
Wait out. Wait for it.
oh, it's going to be such a tough game. They've got good players all around the pitch. It
Mm,
does make me wonder, where Vieira went wrong. Um,
Vieira's problem, I would say, was that for some reason, people have been talking about how he never really got the support he needed from the board in terms of buying players in the transfer windows. But for some reason, he got the team, to become a more solid defensive unit. And most of their games in the middle of the season were lost by a few goals, or they're able to draw. But for some reason, I think the likes of Zaha and Jordan Ayew and Eze and company just weren't able to find the back of the net. And of course, now that Vieira's gone, they're starting to score like there's no tomorrow. You just wonder if those guys downed tools in a way, which is all the more disappointing. But I mean, in the games against Leeds and the games against West Ham, they show that they are more than capable of playing attacking football. Jeffrey Schlupp is another one you might need to watch out for because he has really
yeah.
good speed and he links up beautifully with the attack really well. I mean, he was sort of, drawing those straight lines against West Ham when he was moving into their territory and making it a lot easier for the likes of Eze and Ayew and Elise and Zaha to sort of, really make hay. And it was a strange match as well because West Ham proved that Crystal Palace do have a weakness, and that is set pieces. So I would like to see Gary O'Neill do some homework on that and try and make a plan for those set pieces, specifically the corners. If that means getting Kiefer Moore up there as early as possible to try to terrorize the likes of Gahey and Anderson, I say he's got to go for it. Horses for courses. This is where managers can really earn their crust.
Yeah.
yeah, totally agree because that's the other player that I really rate. I like him. You just said his name, Manny. He's been called up by England, centre back.
Oh, Gahey. Gahey.
Jakey.
Yeah.
I like him. I like him very much. He's the kind of defender I'd like to see, like us sign, because I think he's quality.
If you look as well at their attacking options, but then again, they do get quite a lot of goals across the pitch. In fact, their top scorer this season is actually Erabishieze with 8 goals. But you got some danger going forwards. We got to look at from Edouard Mateta. Zaha is the one that's played the least games, but then again, he is the second top scorer for Crystal Palace. I've one player that I've always thought is quite a decent player, Will Hughes as well. In midfield, I've
Yeah,
always rated him. He's always a good player. Whenever we've come up against him, I think he's a decent player.
yeah, yeah. I mean, I remember when he was at Derby,
Mm,
and we were playing in the Championship at the time, and he was kind of the up and coming thing at the time, wasn't he?
he
Um,
was, yeah,
and yeah, he's always been a bit of a tricky player.
yeah, yeah, most
Been one of
definitely.
those ones that quite a gritty player likes to get stuck in, doesn't he?
Hmm.
Um, but yeah, it's going to be an interesting game. It's going to be an interesting game. And like Manny says, there definitely will be goals. Let's just hope there's more goals in the Palace net than there is the Bournemouth net.
Agreed completely. And they're going to play again their usual 4-3-3. So be warned, they will be top heavy in attack.
Yeah.
Be prepared to get peppered.
Well, let's have a look at our head-to-head with Crystal Palace, shall we? And see
Yeah,
what that looks like. To be honest, they seem to be a team that they always stick in my mind. Of course, they were the first team we played after Operation Restart. That was terrible, and it was equally terrible at Dean Court, wasn't it, earlier on the season?
yeah.
Let's have a look at this.
There's been loads of games though. Literally from I think the 20s through to the 1980s. There's a lot of games,
Oh, crikey.
as you can see.
Crystal
So,
Palace, see, this is something I didn't realise. Um, they were a lower league team in their early days, weren't they?
yeah, yeah. I mean, as you can see here, from 1926 through to 1938, they were in Division Three with us.
Mm,
So this was a regular fixture back in back in the early 1900s.
yeah.
Yeah, so yeah, it's a difficult one when you look at football going this far back because obviously there's no cameras, there's video cameras as such. There's not really many recorded images or anything, and and so there. Away at Palace, 4th of February 1928, got hammered 6-1. We don't want a result like that this weekend, do we?
No, no,
um,
most definitely not. I'm just
so
looking through some of those fixtures,
some high
but then
scoring games there.
we thrashed them 4-1,
Yeah, yes, at home,
4-1,
and then a couple of seasons
1931.
late. Yeah, 1933. We then get hammered away 4-1. So, there's been some games. I mean, there's one there we lost at home 5-2, 18th of January 1936. So it's a fixture that brings goals even back in the day. So
If you remember any of those games, please do let us know, but I don't think you will.
we are going back 90 plus years there, aren't we? So
Yes, yeah, we are. Yeah, 92 years. Right, and here we are, post-war games.
yeah. So again, even through the 40s, 50s, 60s, 70s, Division 3 battles in Division 3. But if you
Mm,
look there looks to be a lot more green than there is red there. So you had the decent form back back in the day. Um,
yeah.
up until the 1987-88 season, um, and the 88-89 season when we were playing them in the old league Division 2, where they seemed to
The Eagles
2
took off,
wins,
didn't
two,
they?
2 defeats. So and then that was around the time I think a certain Mr. Redknapp tried to sign a certain Mr. White, wasn't it? who then ended
Yes,
up
it
playing
was.
at Palace.
Yes, it was. And of course, Palace. They they of course, everything turned round for them, didn't it? And of course, they went into the Premier League. They were one of the founding members, weren't they, Manny? I believe.
I believe so.
Yeah, I think they were one of the founding members. But
Yes. Yeah, they were.
let's
They
have a
were.
look at the big time. So, of course, they've been present when we've been here. Palace have been in the Premier League for quite some time now. When was the last time they were outside the Premier League? Because there was a point, wasn't there, when they nearly got relegated to League One?
Yeah. There's a documentary on, is it on Amazon, about Crystal Palace, and it follows Simon Parish round when he took the club on. There's even a bit on there where he talks about Eddie Howe was on his way to Palace and it was in talks with Palace to become their manager. It's a very interesting documentary. It's on,
Mm,
pretty certain it's on Amazon Prime. I can't remember when Eagles Dare, is it, or something like that.
yeah.
Anyway, it's really, when I find it, I'll let you know what the documentary is. But honestly, give it a watch. I watched it back last year sometime. I mean, I think it's been out for a while, but I only managed to catch it then, and it was really interesting documentary. And that, I'm pretty certain that followed them through to promotion to the Premier League. Ian Holloway was on there, several different managers on there.
Hmm.
But yeah, no, it was really good. I've got a funny feeling, Craig, they must have been in the Premier League for about 10 years now, haven't they? Consecutively.
I think so. Yeah, I think
They
so.
weren't in the Championship when we got promoted to the Championship.
No, they'd already
I
got
think they
themselves
got
up.
promoted the same year we got promoted. So the year we got promoted to the Championship was the year they got promoted to the Premier League.
Yeah, that seems to ring a bell.
I think that we were second in the League One, and I think they went up through the playoffs, didn't they? In the Championship.
Yeah, I think you're
I
quite
might be.
right because I'm just flicking back through all their seasons. Have to go back quite a way. Um, but to be honest, Steve Parish has done a very, very good job there. Very, very
Yeah,
good job there.
yeah. He's pulled a masterstroke by
Hmm.
the timing of removing Vieira and bringing in Mr. Hodgson. My question is what's his plan long term?
Yeah,
Because it's great, that Hodgson's gone back there and done a fantastic job, but he's not this youngest of managers, is he? So what's the long term plan for Steve Parish? I wonder.
well, exactly. And it was 2012, 2013 that Crystal Palace were promoted to the Premier League.
Yeah,
So
same year we went up.
exactly. Yep, spot on, spot on. And they did it through the playoffs, believe it or
Yeah,
not.
that's what I thought. Yeah, yeah.
Yeah, they beat Brighton. That would have been quite tasty.
Oh
Over two
yes,
legs,
yes, over two legs. Yeah.
and then they beat Watford when they weren't a revolving door at Wembley.
Ah,
So yeah, that was how they managed it. And of course, this is 10 years in the Premier League this year.
yeah, yeah, yeah.
So
Fair play. But if you look at these results, obviously these are the more interesting of the head to head. You know, there's. I mean, look at there's some high scoring. I say high scoring games, but there's
mhm,
a lot of goals amongst that lot, isn't there?
there is.
The League Cup in 2020, we knocked them out on penalties, I think.
But to be honest, in the Premier League, we've only, to be fair, the early years of the Premier League that we was in there, you know, we didn't have a bad record against them. One defeat in 7 games there, but ever since it's kind of fallen apart.
Yeah,
They've beaten us
yeah.
every
I mean,
time.
this season's home game on New Year's Eve was absolutely dire. We all know that. We've all discussed that in the past. The game that stood out for me, and it was a privilege to see it, was the game when Defoe scored that beautiful goal,
Oh yes, I remember that. That
and
was the
then
third season, wasn't it?
Lerma scored in that 5-3 game. Scored
Yes.
a absolute screamer, didn't he? There's been goals in this game, and there's going to be goals Saturday, and I'm going to go with a draw for Saturday.
A draw. Well, that would be better than what we've had recently. To be
But it's
fair,
going to be a high scoring draw. It's going to be 3-3.
3-3. Well, we'll have to find out. Interesting facts as well about Crystal Palace and promotion. We was talking about Joe Ward.
Yeah.
I don't know if you're aware, but he's been with Crystal Palace ever since they were promoted.
What, to the Premier League?
Yeah.
So he's due a testimonial then.
Yep. So he joined them in 2012, got promoted with them, and they've been there ever since.
Brilliant.
So
He's
there we are.
there, isn't he?
He has, yeah.
And
Yeah, he
that's
has.
solid. To be at a club for 10 years is not heard of now, is it? Very often.
No,
So,
it's not.
that says that, credit to him. Credit to Joel Ward for being at Palace for so long. I mean, how old is he now?
I think he's in his 30s, isn't he? He's about
He must be in his 30s.
33. Yeah, 33. 33 now.
So he's still got some playing days ahead of him, whether they be at Palace or not. This is a different matter, but if he wants to carry on for a few more years, I'm sure there's going to be clubs that want a player like him. So
He's playing quite a lot of games for Crystal Palace, though. Still.
Yeah, he has. How many has he played this season?
I shall find out. I shall certainly find out. But I think he's played quite a lot. 25. 25. So
That's
probably that's a decent figure. That's a decent figure.
especially when you see the quality of the defenders that they have got there. That's a decent turnout.
Yeah, exactly. And like you say, Mark Guhi as well. There,
Yeah.
it's very good, very good.
Player.
So there we go. So, like I say, do make sure you hit that subscribe button and that bell button because we are doing a free for all this Saturday at 2:30. So yeah, be there or be square. Well, I think that's probably where we should round it up. But of course, Matt, I will see you on Saturday for the big game. Hopefully, it's not going to be a boring game. It's not going to be people, the players on the deck chairs. I'm sure it won't be.
Yeah, let's hope not. Like I say, 3-3.
Yep, definitely. And Manny, thank you again for joining us.
As always, you are welcome, and I'm glad that my number of choice came up with some really, really interesting combinations.
It
Definitely.
certainly did. It certainly did.
Definitely. Well, until the next show, up the cherries, and we'll see you then. Thank you for joining us.
As always, as always.
There he is.
There we are.
Okay.